watch Survivor, and when the show ends, you really wanna talk about it with like-minded friends. It might be hard to find some, but don't you shed a tear. Check out the Purple Rock Podcast, and this is what you'll hear. John will make some dumb jokes, and he likes to yell and curse, and if they're not available, the backup hosts are so much worse. Spend the whole time being jerks, telling you you're wrong, and so we got this other jerk to sing you our theme song. It's the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast.
Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. I am John. My co-host is Andy, and this week we are talking Survivor 44, Episode 6. We're now at the point of the season that we used to call the Merge, which now you have to earn. But sometimes you can lose what you earned, but then other times you don't. And this is one of the times that you don't, which is a totally reasonable thing to expect new viewers to understand, which is probably why the show does not get a lot of new viewers at this point, Andy.
That's untrue. That's not true. I'm sorry to stomp on your intro, but apparently new people come along all the time, and we know that because there's disgustingly young people on the show and on our website, and they clearly were not watching it 20 years ago because they didn't exist. But yeah, no, it's good for you and I to finally all be on the same podcast. We haven't merged, but we are all in the same podcast.
Right. We got to earn this, is what I'm hearing.
I'm not sure that we will tonight.
That we, honestly, if we can make an episode out of this, we have earned it, my friend. There's not a whole lot here. It was a great episode. We'll start with that. I enjoyed it very much. I was entertained. The vote was not all that surprising, to be honest, but, you know, they worked with what they could. And overall, I felt like we got a decent slice of how the interactions were going to go on this beach, who might align with whom, where certain people's heads were at, but not so much so that we're like going to be able to predict future votes, which is a thing we gave up on a long time ago. What do you think about this episode?
I was solid. Yeah. When it was over, like we discussed this, you and I didn't really have a lot to talk about it with, but I wasn't like upset with it. It had the results I wanted to happen. Both, like, if you had asked me who I would like to leave the show, Josh would have been high on that list. And then when the show presents, the potential candidates, definitely Josh.
Yep.
So it worked out well. And I think they tried to do stuff. So like it was solid, just, nothing earth shattering.
Yeah. And that's the thing with when you get to these fake merges, there's 6 people you can vote for, and I don't know. You don't actually see a whole lot of the dynamics play out. Mm-hmm. It's not until the next vote where you'll actually see some voting blocks start to form. In this case, it's just kind of like, 6 of us are immune, so we kind of get to call our own shots here. Like there's not a lot of drama to it in that sense.
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit. I didn't have it in there to kind of talk about the structure, but this is the 4th time they've done this earn the merge bit. I think we're both in agreement that it's really not worth the trouble. But I also didn't feel like it got too much in the way. In some ways, it'll end up working that it kind of preserves some of the potential fireworks and dynamics, at least until they might ruin it with some kind of double vote or something and not give us a real merge. But I do feel like it was a bit of a holding pattern that like nobody was really looking to do anything. But like anything dramatic.
Right.
I don't know that's unusual for merges, though. I think often at the merge, people, sometimes you see big swings, especially like when it's, one group versus another group. But you also get times when everybody's like, there's just so much going on. What's the easy vote? And I think Josh was definitely that. And I think maybe why this one didn't bother me like last one, some previous ones. Obviously, the first one, as you alluded to in the intro, they didn't fool people. And that winning the immunity, there were no stupid hourglasses or anything like that. But also, it feels like if there wasn't like half the people with immunity, Josh still would have been the target. So it didn't feel like it really disrupted any of that, which would have happened anyway. So it didn't really bother me, or maybe I'm just used to it.
From the start of the episode, it felt like Josh was at least a name that everybody was considering, right?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't necessarily know they were definitely going for him, but his name was at least circulating from what we saw.
I mean, Josh's name has only really come up in this season of like Survivor when people are talking about wanting to vote him out, right? Like the only vote Soka, goes for is, Claire's trying to make Josh the target instead of she. Then when we go back to Soka, they're like, hey, let's all the four of us team up to get rid of Josh. And then he is moved over to Tika. So like, yeah, he's that's been his role this season is, a target that nobody seems that unwilling to move against. So I'm in that's more than anything. I think that's why I was happy that it was him. Actually not more than anything. More than anything, I'm happy it was him instead of Yam Yam. Straight up.
There you go. That's the real saving grace here. Is that him going home means Yam Yam is still here.
But I was also like, okay, yeah, I get it. Josh is somebody that people would like to vote at, or at the very least are not interested in keeping. So let's remove him. Like, yeah, when that character hangs around too much, like that can be annoying. If they hang around due to their own guile or something, that's great. But when it's just like everybody's like, hey, how about that person? And they get distracted or they don't end up caring. It becomes a boring, repetitive story. So that's another reason why I was glad that he went home. And I'm glad that like he wasn't on the winning tribe. Also glad because I had to cheer for my purple brethren. They drew purple rocks. It was great.
I was going to say, as soon as they drew purple rocks, I was like, well, I know which team I'm rooting for. And of course, my rooting interest being what it is, they won, as they should.
So last week when we were talking about Josh and how, he did bring some entertainment value to this season. I just feel like that was done. But we were talking like how ridiculous his lie was, and we had some good laughs at the expense of his fake idol. Not as many good laughs as Yam Yam had, but still. And I had mentioned, wouldn't it be funny if he still tries to keep going with that fake idol? And goddamn bless him, he did.
He did. And it was quite an interesting strategy, I guess, to go in and immediately be like, yeah, so I have an idol. And like, you're coming there with two other people who were just on a tribe with you. And you felt like you were getting voted out on the last vote. So probably correctly so from what we had seen. So you've got to suspect, hey, maybe those two aren't completely on board with me. And that if I try to lie, they might submarine that lie by going and giving the true story because they've seen this janky ass fake idol. They know it is fake. So what a brilliant strategy by Josh. Like, chef's kiss, unparalleled. Why not attempt that? And then also to say, I told him I have an idol because I can always walk that back later. Really? So when I first met you, I was absolutely lying. He's all over the place strategically. And I am, much like you, very glad that we got to the end of this. He's dodged the bullet enough times. It was time for him to go. Yeah,
like he even says that he recognizes that there is potential downsides to trying to maintain the lie. But damn it, if it's a lie, then we fight on the lie. And that's what he was doing. And it was wonderful. And it's just so weak sauce, too. At least in his benefit here, that nobody seemed to, at least as we saw, wanted to see his janky ass idol. But yeah. And like some people might think, hey, they were believing it because they do get discussion about it. Right. But it's like, so there's enough people. It doesn't matter. Like that's always been kind of the point of the fake idols are useless, is that like real idols frequently aren't that powerful either when people can game plan for them. So when you have a fake one, that's really tough. Because all you got to do is like, even if they believe you, even if we posit that these people believed that Josh might have that Josh's fake idol would be real, which I don't think is what's happening quite. There's a bit more of a nuance happening in that they believed he might have an idol, not that his fake was real because, they didn't necessarily see that it's fake, but that he might have one. And people are like, what's the difference? Right. Well, it's like, because you should, frankly, when you have the ability, when you have the luxury of it, you have the numbers, always play as though they might have an idol. Because here's the other thing. He legitimately might have a thing that would bestow immunity to him. All of them have one besides Jamie. It's the shot in the dark, right? So it's like, yeah, it makes sense to like talk about it and like, what if? And the answer, what if, is really easy. Some of us vote for someone else, that like, so that's why like fake idols are so a waste of time when you're trying to get them to confer immunity to yourself, because people can beat actual idols that confer immunity. Your fake pig beads and string doesn't do anything.
But more importantly, when we get to the vote, it's basically come down to, initially it was going to be maybe Josh versus Kane. And if you're like me, you breathe the sigh of relief. Yep. Like, oh, good. Cool. Either of those, just fine.
Yeah, if somehow Josh's idol matures or something, I'm okay with the other guy, whatever his name is.
Right. But somehow, instead, the vote ends up between Josh and Yam Yam, which is funny only because, again, Josh with the strategic mastermind, he had previously gone from totally being willing to burn the bridge with Yam Yam to going back to, oh, I got to rebuild this bridge, to burning it again, to, oh, actually, now we're going to vote for Kane. Yam Yam, we need to get back on each other's side. What just fabulous. Oh. What a fun ride that was.
Yeah, I know. Like, I think probably the highlight of the episode, and why, despite it not being like a plot-filled episode or whatever, was the dynamic between Josh and Yam Yam. Like the scene where they're like talking and all of that, and Yam Yam's like, "Hey, why don't you give me your idol?" And he's like, "Girl," like that was great stuff. And I don't know if the whole one was on the episode or if it was an extended one that's going on, because maybe I was a little distracted when it was happening. But yeah, like there's even a moment where Josh pulls him in, and Yam Yam's like, "No, don't kiss me, my husband." Like it's just fantastic. And then Yam Yam talking about how he wants the what is it, gratification of voting out Josh.
You have to emphasize the K. That was what he did. The K shine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it. Oh god, it was so great. And then honestly, it's also
Yam Yam's the best.
He is. And we should talk about him for like the rest of the episode once we get past this. What struck me, just kind of like seeing that dynamic, that the two of them, just like, this is another thing that diversity can get you, because in past Survivor, the two queer characters might just have to team up just out of solidarity, but now there's enough that like you can just be enemies, right? Like you can just be, you don't have to like do it for the culture, so to speak. Instead, that you can be messy, and it was delightful. I liked that they're like talking to each other, they're engaging, and when they had the great scene last week, of understanding, but they're still like, I don't like that guy, and it's like, yes, that's what we need.
Right. From a game perspective, I need this guy gone. I didn't like.
Well, it wasn't even just game, because it was also personal, in that they both seemed to not like that the other person betrayed them, the week prior or 2 weeks prior, I guess, or 2 days prior, probably.
Although, as Yam Yam put it, you didn't betray him.
Yes.
You just went against him. They're entirely different concepts.
Yes, like, I didn't even know you until the day before.
Exactly. They did not have some long-running friendship that Yam Yam just in a bit of passion was like, no, this is over now. No, he'd met you the day before, and he's like, this guy should be the one that's gone. Like, no, that's not betrayal. That's strategic thinking.
No, I have to vote for somebody. How about the person I've known for 1 day versus the people I've known for 8 days? Like, yeah. But I will not tell him that I'm doing that, because that's Survivor.
You don't generally, unless you're Andrew Savage, circa like season 7 or so, you do not tell people to their face, hey, I'm going to vote you out. It's just not generally the sort of tack you want to take when trying to get someone voted out, especially now when they can, at the very least, throw a Hail Mary with the shot in the dark. Just not the wisest strategy. So, yeah, calling things a blindside at this point, like every vote is a blindside. No one is like, oh shit, I'm so surprised you were, or not, I'm not surprised at all. You were always coming for me. Actually, I take that back. There are some people like that, because you just know, but you don't go people's faces and tell them like, hey, I'm voting you out this time.
Frankly, in every era of Survivor, I've always felt like that is disrespectful. People say the blind side is, but no, when you can just go right up to somebody and be like, hey, buddy, I'm sorry, but it's you. What you're doing in that moment, you might act like you're, being noble. If anything, you're probably trying to clear your own conscience and maybe preserve a jury vote. But what you're also saying is, I view you as such a low a threat that you possessing this knowledge can do no harm to me. I don't think that you can do anything with this, so I might as well tell you. And that always has felt disrespectful to me, even back in the day when there wasn't that much you could do.
And really, if in a best case scenario, it shows that you're like pitying the person, right? Like it's, even if you're being generous, the best thing you could say about it is maybe pity, which again, not ideal. I mean, no one's lining up to be pitied. So,
and like in this episode alone, you get like Carson telling Kane that he might be a decoy vote, and that throws things off. Like you can't tell people.
Exactly. Like most people are not willing to hear that, just because then it's like, okay, well, am I being lied to here? Am I actually the target? And it's a terrible move. And I like that Carson made it for various reasons, which we'll get to later. But more importantly, let's get back to Yam Yam, because this whole dynamic that he has with Josh is great. And I'm glad that the battle is over and Yam Yam finally came out on top. Had to be phrasing there. So we get to the tribal council, and they do try to make it seem as though there might be, is it Yam Yam? Is it Josh? But at a certain point, it's pretty clear. I mean, even we see Josh reaching for a bag to not pull out that fake idol. And it's like, okay, so definitely Josh. But Yam Yam at that tribal council, just gold, just running his mouth and admitting like, I just keep talking because you're looking at me and I'm nervous and I got to keep talking, right? Because you're still looking at me. Like, he's television gold, and I just want more of him on my screen. I would have been devastated if we'd lost him.
How long do you think they had to talk to Yam Yam in like a interview setting to recognize, this guy's going on TV? Like 1 minute?
Right. I mean, when you bring him in for the first casting thing, it's like the in-person casting. It's like, this is a unanimous yes, right? Like, what else do you need to discuss? He should have just been passed through right then. If he wasn't, that's a failure on casting's part.
Yeah, at that point, maybe you just bring more people in the room so they could say that they were there at some point. Or maybe you're screening for other things. But no, man, look, how us in this season to glom onto this guy? I would argue the preview from the end of last season, like this guy just sparks. And I would say like 2 episodes ago, I was just slightly down on Yam Yam, largely just because he played the thing with Carolyn just so poorly. But now I'm way back in. He's so great. I love him.
Well, and here's the thing: realistically, is he an amazing Survivor player?
No, not at all. And I don't want him to be really.
Nope. That doesn't matter at all to me. Like, he's not a great player. He's actually made many mistakes so far. I don't care. I just want him to linger and be on my TV because good things happen when he's around. And I think it's like such a stark contrast between this season and last season, whereas you can immediately see Yam Yam on your screen and be like, oh, good things are about to happen. I'm about to smile and be entertained. And just no one had that spark last season. I mean, not even close. And I get that, people like Yam Yam are unique. There's not a lot of them. They don't happen every season. But at the same time, how does Survivor not realize that they were casting a bunch of duds last time?
I think they were casting nice people. They were excited.
They were going for the stories.
Yeah, they were excited by the diversity of and I don't mean diversity as in like racial makeup. They got that this season. They've been doing that. They've been doing that effectively, but of like the stories and all of that. And they think we've got this great inspirational cast, and I think they just kind of forgot that that's not what powers their show. You're not making America's Extreme Home Makeover here, right? You're making a game of betrayal and deceit. Beyond like not caring that Yam Yam is not good, I mean it. Like, I don't want him to be good at Survivor because I want him just out there doing shit. I want him being messy. I want him saying too much, being too much. That's what I want. Because it was so delightful, like otherwise I feel Josh is very boring, but interacting with Jam Jam is like, oh, I mean, terrible usage of the term, but he was the great straight man in that conversation.
It really was. And that's the thing is I like seeing the various interactions. And we mentioned before too, that we wanted to see Carolyn interacting with people, which we got some up this week and we'll get to that shortly. But there are just certain people that serve as catalysts for the show, right? As entertainment catalysts. And, Josh on his own was not going to interest me. He has an inspirational story. That's great. Last season was loaded with inspirational stories. I was bored to tears. However, you get him and Jam Jam, and they're basically openly shit talking, but being playful. And then also sort of like we're joking, but actually I really am, I was going to say coming for you. But again, the phrasing, no, I really am going to come after you on this vote, whatever it might be. It just works so much better, right? Yeah. Josh and Brandon's strategic dynamic bored me. What is happening in that conversation? I don't care. Josh and Jam Jam, on the other hand, thrilling to watch.
Yeah, and when Jam Jam made his initial decision, it's like, no, I'm going to keep Carolyn because I want, to keep the weird people around. I questioned it, and then when it backfired with the Sarah vote, I was like, hey, maybe that's why you don't do it. And now, God bless you, Jam Jam. You made the right decision for yourself and for the world. Because I want that to last as long in the game and just keep doing stuff. They can even throw that third nerd in with them. I don't care. I have my reasons.
I may disagree with you on that one.
Well, I mean, let's get into it right now. I wouldn't mind if that means he's the no vote loser in a final three of Jam Jam, Carolyn, and Carson. Sign me up. Sign me up for him having to sit there, having researched and practiced all the Survivor, and then lose to two people he was damn sure were his goats. Fuck yes.
Okay. No, that I'm here for. Yeah, that I'll sign up for. We should quickly do an aside because you did mention Carson and his practicing for challenges and shit. We had a commenter on this week on our site named Survivor Reddit. What a
no, r/Survivor. Let's
our Survivor. Sorry, yes, our Survivor. Who said okay, can we all just admit the being able to practice for the challenges because they've run the same puzzles for 18 straight seasons is maybe not so thrilling at this point. Maybe just mix up your puzzles.
Well, beyond
start doing some different things.
He made the user made a point that I had already thought of myself, and I was going to say here, so now I'm saying it, but attributing that there's privilege involved in that. Man, who even has a printer these days? I do, and I feel like a weirdo. Much like a 3D printer. So that's the advantage you get now is the people who are, suited enough and comfortable enough to have 3D printers in their houses. And, don't tell me that you could buy these on, different Survivor shops from people who have 3D printers. I'm not interested. And that doesn't change the dynamic that much. And then in a reply, another commenter had the part that I was going to throw in next to it. This one would be No Eyes and Blindfold. That it's it reminds me of American Ninja Warrior, how it's kind of become this contest now for a bunch of rich kids who can build gyms in their spacious backyards. And it's actually the level of competition's gotten better in American Ninja Warrior as a result. It's no longer a hobby, it's a profession. But then they still stick to the stories. It's just a part of the show. Really, you thought Survivor had a lot of sub stories, every third act in that one is.
Yeah.
But it's just these people in these palatial homes, these white families. And it's that's what your game is becoming. And and obviously it's not quite that for Survivor, but if we don't change these things up, yeah, we had Matthew talking about he had tried that challenge in his backyard and all that. It's I think there's a privilege thing that's going to creep in here that I don't think you need. Now, winning a challenge and winning Survivor are obviously different beasts altogether. But like the whole challenge of a puzzle is figuring out a puzzle. So it's not the same thing as like going to the gym and like doing like pull-ups or something. Like obviously other people are practicing elements of Survivor challenges themselves, right? Getting fit, maybe working on balance, swimming. So doing puzzles is great, but like knowing the actual puzzle, that's like the whole point of a puzzle is to see you figure it out. And that's not happening. He figured it out months ago.
Right. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying is let's maybe add a little bit more drama to this. You're not showing me that this person is an ace at puzzles. You're showing me this person has some rote memorization skills. Yeah. Great. Those are not the sorts of things that the puzzle was designed to test. Yeah.
And I'll say this time, okay, there, we saw it. We saw, and obviously like Spencer had done like an element of that, but it was like a much simpler puzzle and that sort of thing.
Right. The tangram.
Yeah. We saw it. Okay. We saw it. And when they have the clip of him practicing, and it was kind of amusing that he was just whipping through it. Like it didn't take long to be like, okay, this guy printed that off. Like I already knew the backstory before they had shown it. Right. It was funny seeing Matt just holding a puzzle piece. I don't think he put a single one on. And like at this point, you should just go to the other side of the puzzle and put your hand there so that he can push the pieces in faster and like not worry about like holding, because you're not solving, Matt, and you don't need to be. Obviously, this kid has this exact puzzle memorized. So like it was kind of amusing once, but they have to stop it. And I know like Probst has been saying, "Oh no, we like it. People should be prepping." It's like, yeah, again, prepping for the skill, but not with the answers to the test.
Right. Yeah. It's making, what happens then when you just have 3 people that have printed out and memorized the puzzle, then it's just a race, which is fine, but that's also not the puzzle element, right? You're not figuring anything out and seeing who can figure it out the fastest. You're just seeing who has the physical dexterity to put puzzle pieces into place faster than the other team.
Now, I do like the idea that like now that they've shown this, there's going to be this like whole generation of dorks like trying this out. And then if they never reuse a puzzle again, like I wasted my life memorizing these puzzles.
Please. Yes. It'd be so good. And even better if like you make the changes and there's some elements of that tree puzzle.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you just flipped a few pieces and they just keep trying like, no. I remember where this goes. It goes right. Oh shit. Why is it not going in? And just like 3 or 4 pieces, just enough to where they're like, what the fuck? And then, someone who didn't study this puzzle is actually attempting the puzzle and figures it out faster.
Yeah. And like a critical piece too,
Yes, exactly. Like one that you need for other pieces to attach to, and they can't get it. It'd be perfect.
But yeah,
that's the change to make. Like, just ease into this.
It'd be like doing a TV show on Wordle, and then people know the answers already. I mean, honestly, maybe a little less because I don't know how making a TV show on Wordle is going to be interesting anyway. And yes, I know like a previous game show existed. I don't know how that was interesting either because I never saw it.
I haven't seen this one, but apparently it's still running. All right, let's get back to some show talk here. So the Survivor show, to be clear. Let's talk Carolyn, because we got to the merge, the fake merge feast. And Carolyn is sitting there telling all these people, hey, just so you know, Josh doesn't have an idol. And I'm positive about this because I witnessed it in our previous camp, blah, blah, blah. And how does that go for her, Andy?
People are going to regret never listening to Carolyn because she is always right and nobody thinks she is.
It is wild to watch. I mean, like, at the very least, yes, she's a weirdo. And yes, Josh survived a vote, likely because he needed Carolyn on his side. So maybe you could then discount it by saying like, no, I don't know if I can trust Carolyn about Josh because maybe they're aligned. Maybe. But at the same time, she's one of 3 people that would have had knowledge of what happened on that beach. Josh isn't going to tell you shit about whether he has an idol or not. So you've got two other potential sources. Carolyn's just laying out an exact scenario with potentially verifiable details, by the way. She said, oh no, he's got a fake idol. So then if you listen to her, you could go back to the beach and be like, Josh, show me your idol. And then all of you can be like, yep, those are the beads from Tree Mail, and verify the story that Carolyn just told you. And yet, instead, they're just like, nah, let's just plan for in case he has an idol. Because I don't know if I trust this Carolyn character.
Yeah, and look,
she laid the whole thing out for you.
I will say that she didn't do the best job in laying out the case. It feels very much, and I think maybe one of the issues, I think the main issue is that people are dismissing her because she's weird, and maybe also possibly because she's a weird woman in particular.
Yep.
But it's not just that. Like, people dismissed the winner of last season the entire time, including continuing in social media after they had lost to him in the finals. Like, there's still some people that were on that season are like, what? How did he really win? And again, like, in one way, I sympathize. How does a guy like that win? But yeah, getting back to Carolyn, it's so that's part of it. But I also think that she's better at explaining things to us than she is to her fellow contestants, and some of it feels like. Well, again, the episode actually does a good job in like introducing why that could be when she's talking about how like difficult it is for her to be in that scenario, like just socializing and all that with these people. And like last year, I like had a favorite, even if they weren't dynamic, but like Jesse, I could really relate to him because of his just total like dedication to being mid. Like that was me, right?
And a huge wife guy. Yeah. Not white guy, right. Wife guy.
It's important when people hear you say the right thing. It's also important to say the right thing. And we did a bit of that last week too. But when she's like talking about how like she doesn't like being in these situations or like making small talk, I was like, queen, like finally I feel
relatable queen.
I did not know when this season started that like Carolyn would feel so like identifiable, like representation for me. But right there, I got it. So yeah, like I also feel like she's the kind of person who, when speaking, sometimes leaves out some words because her mind is already raced to the next thing, and then she's kind of like, so get it. And it's like, I think she missed a couple of things. Like, for one, the killer, like the closing to submission of like his fake ass idol is like, that guy like breathed the biggest sigh of relief when we were told we didn't have to go to tribal council. He would not have cared. Right. Like, he did not act like a man who was confident that he would go. And to the point where people are thinking like, well, why should they believe Carolyn? Yeah. Okay. It's fine. You don't. But there was more. Like, they were just dismissive of it. They moved, just like Danny and Brandon, they moved on to the other part of the conversation. And the story just keeps being that, like, Carolyn keeps telling people what they should need to know, and they refuse to hear it. And I can feel her frustration. I'm frustrated for her, but I also enjoy it because I am holding on to the idea and hope that this will pay off positively for her at some point in this game.
Yeah, I would also enjoy that. And I think something you alluded to just now is probably part of the cause for why they ignore her. And that's because in those situations, I mean, they're basically trying to hint to us that she's, socially anxious, basically. And so in those moments, why is she struggling to communicate? Probably because she's socially anxious. And so she is delivering some of that information, but you're right. She's not doing it in the most coherent fashion because she's probably just a ball of nerves for whatever reason, because she's not comfortable with these people. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, she's not the best messenger in that time. But again, people are just way too quick to dismiss her and tune her out because not only is she socially anxious, she's just odd. And then people think that's the oddball. I can ignore her and talk to these other people who are much more game savvy just because they're not weird. Yeah. And again, they're doing so at their own risk because Carolyn is giving them the correct information.
And then to speak to the idea that, like, if she's struggling to represent herself and her thoughts now, that could be a problem later when, of course, she needs to present herself in order to get votes. Yeah, like that's certainly a concern. But sometimes the dynamic shifts when you're speaking at people versus when you're speaking with people. When suddenly, like, she's in the spotlight, I could see her going into like longer form thought and maybe finally saying the right thing, and people being like the light bulb coming on, like, oh my God, we were wrong the whole time.
Here's why that's probably correct, because you had mentioned earlier that when she's talking to us, which is in a confessional, she's usually much more coherent and she can, string together longer thoughts. Now, maybe that's just the trick of editing where they're stitching together parts of her thoughts to make it more coherent. But at the same time, it's also in those confessionals, producers are asking you leading questions, right? They're going to keep asking you questions to get the information out of you. In a jury, they're going to be asking questions to get the information out of her, and they will give her the time and space to talk. It's not going to be a pressure situation. They'll ask follow-up questions if they need to. And that might be a situation where she actually shines because she can talk to us when she's being interviewed. She might be able to talk to a jury when they're interviewing her.
Yeah, like maybe it's like finally people are listening to me because that's the part where they listen, right? And then, maybe that'll be when the big reveal happens. And again, like
I like that we just punched her ticket to the final tribal already.
It's what I'm hoping for.
There.
Like it's 100% like legit, and not just like I like her. Like I love Yam Yam, but no, I want this for Carolyn because I just think it would just be such an interesting and different story than what we've ever gotten from this show. In a way that I don't know any other member of this cast has that to offer right now. I mean, it's episode 6. We got lots of time, so I'm not writing them off.
Sure.
But yeah, that's what I want. And again, show again how I just relate deeply to Carolyn. She and I are basically the same. I am socially awkward as well when making small talk, talking to people. Clearly, when I'm given like a space to speak, I have no trouble in that regard, right? Like nobody will believe me that most people in my life would describe me as quiet. But that's truth because in like social situations, I don't speak up a lot because I don't really have anything to share, nor do I care about like the normal interactions of people. But yes, obviously give me a space and I will talk and talk and talk and talk. So that's what I'm hoping will happen with Queen Carolyn.
Yeah. So you mentioned other people not having as interesting a story if they win. Let's take a trip around the remaining players and see if we have any interests in them as a winner or otherwise. And let's briefly start with our boy Yam Yam, who is fantastic. We've covered a lot about him already, but are there any storylines related to Yam Yam that you're looking forward to seeing?
No, because I don't want to try and predict what's up with Yam Yam. I just want to sit back and let him go, and see where it goes from there. Because just whenever that guy talks, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, as I said earlier, he's not a great Survivor player. I don't know that I necessarily would enjoy him winning the season. I mean, I'd be happy for him because he has brought entertainment into my life. However, would I be like, well, that was a strategically satisfying season of Survivor? Probably not. I mean, unless he somehow rebounds in some major way, I don't think so. But I would definitely enjoy the journey. I think he provides plenty of entertainment and I like him sticking around. I don't, similarly to you, need any particular things out of his game other than him interacting with other people and making me smile and laugh. That's all I need.
Yeah, I guess I want him to do well enough through the majority of his stay that he's got a pep in his step. That's when he's at his best. Sulky Yam Yam, not as good. So if he gets into a scenario where it's 3 weeks in a row where he's like a decoy boon or has no options or whatever, that I don't want that. If he has to go, even if it's next week, which would suck royally, I want it to be while he's still giving us the A material. But again, I don't want it to be anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want him to get beat down.
Yeah.
Because then it just sucks the life out of the Yam Yam show.
I honestly wouldn't mind if he doesn't make it to Final Tribal. Again, if it's those 3, that'd be great. But I wouldn't mind avoiding the scenario where a bunch of bitter jurors just lay into him and say that, like, you're not actually such a good person because you voted me out. And then, because I don't want to see that. I don't know if these people would, but most do. The most juries find the guy that was like the nice guy, the fun character. And if they make it to Final Tribal, they just try to guilt trip them. I don't want to see that. Although,
yeah, you don't want to deflate Yam Yam.
Yeah, I mean, like, think of like what happened with not Yam Man, from the Thai, yeah, like that.
Wow, did you just compare him to Yam Yam?
I mean, two older guys that immigrants.
Any other traits they had in common?
Sure,
Andy?
lots of them. I bet I could name two white guys. And you'd be like, which is which? It happens. I'm not too worried about it. But I do think that Yam Yam might be able to push back. Like, I think he might just be like, think of how he pushed back with Josh. That wasn't a betrayal, so they might be fine. So yeah, I changed my mind. Yam Yam till the very end of this season because that means more Yam Yam.
Exactly. All right, let's move on. Let's talk some Carson, who you had said earlier that you'd be fine with seeing in a final three. I am opposed to that in any scenario other than a humiliating loss for
That's
Carson.
what I want. Yeah. I want him to feel like he is the big shot running everything, and he's one of two people that are talking that way right now. And then to be revealed, nah, man, like, nobody likes you. And these people who you had no respect for, they're the ones we're actually voting for. And just like seeing how like flabbergasted and like exasperated he would be when it becomes clear throughout that final tribal that like you got no shot here, buddy. No, that would be amazing. One plus
that would be
one
good.
plus for Carson this episode. Not that he memorized a puzzle, which whatever, fair play. If they're gonna let you do that, then go ahead. I'm grateful that he did not try to pass off a fake idol. Yeah, he had his expiring idol. He's like, this thing's expired, and he didn't. Frankly, it shocked the hell out of me. He strikes me as exactly the type that'd be like, oh, this is something I could do something with. And instead he didn't. And frankly, he did do something with it. By revealing that, it shows that he has some level of honesty. Hey, I had this thing and it expired. And then it ingratiated him further. Like, again, like, I get it. I like when people trick people in this game. It's not worth it in the case of fake idols. So, well, bravo for that.
All right, let's move on to Jamie.
The other person who's convinced they're running this game.
Oh my God, she's flying high. She's the MVP, Andy. Not so much for the challenge, but otherwise, just the MVP. And Jamie we didn't get any mention of her two immunity idols that she had. She didn't mention the now expired, nor does she realize the other one's a fake. But is very convinced that she holds all the cards. She's got all the information, and she is running the show. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that take. This is going to shock you. I hope you're sitting down. But it might just be that she's maybe making some bad reads here.
Oh, yeah. It reads as pure delusion. I mean, obviously, because we have the information that she does not, right? I kind of dig it, though. Like, I don't dig her. But when have we ever seen this? The person in her position, of her type, being like, I am amazing. Nobody can touch me. Like, again, like, I kind of like that it's happening. And especially because, like, it's just this puffed up self-belief. Because as soon as she struggled in the challenge, but then they still managed to win, she's just in tears, right? Like, she thought that, like, she had blown it. And that's a reminder of like who she was in the very first episode. So I don't know. It's amusing to me, and that might read as patronizing. Maybe it reads that way because it probably is on some level, but it's just like from like just a character type. She was the nervous one. She was the one worried about being marginalized. And then she gets just this placebo, right? And suddenly now she's riding high. I'm immune to everything. It's kind of fun.
And I'm excited for her downfall.
Yeah.
If it comes sooner rather than later, great. Because I'm ready for the experience to end. I agree with you. There's been parts of it that are entertaining, but it's reaching the end of that entertainment value. It's diminishing returns at this point.
And when it like falls apart, I don't want it to be because like everybody's just turning against her, and then she's like, "Oh God, got to use this idol that I have every reason to believe is real." Nobody in the game doesn't believe it's real, because the person who made it is long gone. I want it to be because she's like, I'm the queen. I'm gonna do something huge here. Or, it could also be amusing that, like, we get a vote out confessional where it's like, I can't believe I didn't play my idol, something. But, like, just if they're pumping her up like this, and it's not they are pumping her up. She is pumping herself up like this. I don't think this is an invention of the edit.
Nope. She's saying these words.
Yeah. And, like, she's beaming. She's so excited. Like, she's giving the editors all the rope for the comeuppance edit. That I want the fake idol reveal to be a comeuppance as well. And on that note, on like comeuppance edits, people like be like, "Oh, you can't say that like you're doing everything that nothing could ever possibly go wrong." Though, the editors will make you look stupid. I would never say something like that. It's like a Survivor fan thought. I'm the other way, man. If I were ever on Survivor, and I will never be on Survivor, but if I were ever on Survivor, I'm giving them all the rope in the world to hang me with. Because two things. One,
of course,
if I win, fucking amazing winner's edit, man. I was giving them everything. It's like me and Richard Hatch on that tree, right? Or two, okay, I lost, but I'm on TV, bitches. The rest of you making these, milquetoast comments about, I don't know how things are going to go. And they're like, fuck, man, we can't use that. No, I'll be like, man, I'm doing the greatest in the history of this show. I'll be on win or lose. So.
Yep, you will.
I clearly have no problem saying, big, bold statements that will later make me look like a fool. So there is a 0% chance that I would not do that if I were on the actual show.
I'd put that in the 0% club if I could. All right. Let's talk Heidi, who is on this show and who people definitely remember because she's gotten so much screen time.
Yeah. So when she started talking this episode, and I don't remember what, I think it was just generic, like strategizing about who to split the votes on or whatever. I was like, what the fuck is that?
So in the first episode, I did have an impression of Heidi. I was like, oh, she could be entertaining. She seems pretty smart. She might be with it and have a finger on the pulse of the game. And then similarly, I was like, oh, right. That's Heidi. Yeah. Yep. I remember her. We haven't seen her in a long time.
And like a lot of it is like because Soka was not intrinsic to the plot. So for Soka, we got, the Franny and Matt story. We get pieces of that every week, including this. They got Danny barrel rolling through it. So it's like, it might not even be that there's anything wrong with Heidi. As you said, like she showed some acumen in the first episode. She was involved in the Soka discussions, although, in a tribe of six, hard not to be. But yeah, I was like, oh yeah, Heidi. I have not thought about her in weeks. And I'm still not thinking of her, despite literally talking about her right now.
Right. So let's move on to people that we have been seeing for weeks. Matt and Franny, let's group them together. Matt and Franny.
Oh my God, they held hands, John.
Oh, can you believe it? I had to wipe a single tear from my eyes. I was so moved. We finally got what we will say is the height of nerd romance hand-holding. And so the interesting thing for me is that because Matt has a fake idol that he thinks is real, and that Franny likely thinks is real, you get into a situation where Matt will either try to save himself or Franny with a fake idol, which will be funny, or there's the potential for Matt being voted out because people would rather keep Franny around as the easier to work with portion of that showman's couple. Both of those would be satisfying to watch. But overall, what are your takes on Matt and Franny?
I enjoyed the hand-holding for two reasons. One, it's so adorable. And that it confirms that I believe they're probably at this stage both aware of the mutual attraction. We've moved past the, does Matt like me? Yes, no, check mark style of confessionals to like, physical contact that is more than just, a friendly hug, right?
An 8-minute long friendly hug, as friends do.
So generally, you don't just like hold hands with somebody that we're just friends with, right?
Do you not? You're not just randomly grabbing the hands of friends and caressing them?
I mean, not since COVID.
Just caressing their knuckles.
But also, because of the utterly ridiculous premise, I don't know why that word was so hard for me to say at that moment. The utterly ridiculous premise they are trying to perpetuate that they are hiding this from anyone.
So great.
As we're seeing the hand holding, that's what we're getting, like the audio. We can't let anybody know. And the idea that we're just lying in shelter. How will anyone know? When it's like Survivor 101 at this point to like take note of who is sleeping next to each other, what's going on.
Uh-huh.
So, and
Boston Rob explicitly spelled it out in a season of Survivor. And these people are all Survivor fans. They know that shit.
Yeah, and I'm sure they know it too, Matt and Franny. And it's just like, I get it, man. Sometimes when you're into somebody, you just can't not.
Yep. You just get blinded to all the potential hazards and you're like, this is great.
Yeah. Doing this makes me feel really good. I shouldn't do it, but I can't not. And
there you go.
That's fucking beautiful. So good for you, dorks.
We get it.
Yeah, but it's also very amusing for us because frankly, the preview for next week's episode is a person who met them that day being like, we got to break those two up. Like, you're not hiding anything. God bless.
Again, the only person who hasn't caught on is Jamie, and that's because Jamie just is completely oblivious. So that is not saying anything about Matt and Franny.
I want next week to be like Lauren, who's saying this, so we've got to break those two up. Jamie being like, oh no, they're fine. I'm in with Franny. It shouldn't be a problem. She said she'd vote out Matt.
Sure.
That'd be amazing.
And then just Lauren looking at her like, What do you think is happening here? All right, let's move on and talk some Danny.
I should say to talk about them as individuals. I like Franny more than I like. No, it's literally a one sentence take. I like Franny more than I like Matt. That's all.
Seconded.
Okay, moving on.
Yep. All right. Let's talk Danny because we got another week. Like we had 1 week and Danny's just like barrel rolling all over the place like an action hero. Where has that Danny gone? It's impossible to fathom that Danny might have been rolling around like into the water for reasons no person could possibly explain. And then suddenly 3 days later, he's never doing that again.
He's not doing it until he earns it. He's got to earn that merge.
Oh man, he's gonna get to
I want
the
an
merge
epic
and
merge.
Just roll on in.
Barrel roll next week. He's got that buff now.
Oh.
And this is all because he was foolish enough to not draw a purple rock. No rolls for you.
So Danny is, of course, still holding an idol and holding the information that Matt has a fake idol. We've got him with at least some ties to Brandon. He seems to mostly get along with the people from his former tribe, so Matt and Franny and Heidi as well. And yeah, at some point, Danny's going to make some moves. I'm interested in that because he's an active player. I'm not going to say he's necessarily a good player, but he's got some signs of it. At the very least, he's going to do things, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and look, man, I think he did the right thing this week in that, just cooling his heels, not standing out. And it lends some credence to the things he was saying last week in the utterly ridiculous fashion in front of a third person that didn't care. Who were the targets this week? It was 3 guys, right? It was, the physically fit Josh. It was the giant Kane, So it's like, So he was, prior to now, in a bit more of a position of power because his physical strength were an asset to those around him. And now it's not. So now it's time to run and hide. I don't think he'll be capable of hiding very much. I don't want him to hide very long, but kudos to him for staying out of there. Like what we didn't get is him forming a bro alliance this week. And clearly we didn't get him even interjecting with the idea, no, not my man, Josh. So kudos for that. But, I would like it if you would go back to being either like wacky and like overstimulated next week, or an idiot bro with plans. One of those will bring me entertainment, and I'm confident that won't take too long either one way.
He seems like the type that's just gonna have to make moves. Like he'll get restless if he's not.
So like he's doing the right thing now,
but
I don't believe he'll be able to keep the powder dry. And I also don't believe that even if he did keep the powder dry, people are going to notice him like they've already have, right? So, like they know he's
all right. Let's move on to that athletic physical threat would-be partner to Danny, Brandon, who we got just a tiny bit of this week. We saw his interactions with Josh. We didn't see much talk of his prospective alliance with Danny because, for the most part, they weren't aligned in this episode because they were on different pseudo tribes in that challenge. So,
which worked out well. It worked out well that one side got Brandon and one side got Danny. Didn't matter because Carson, whoever had Carson was winning that challenge, but it stayed fairly even. Brandon's team was up because A, they were purple, but B, because he's taller, and that really mattered for the moving of the giant balls. Nice.
It did. Yeah, good phrasing. Brandon, I don't know.
I have no takes on this guy. Like he's right to type. A former athlete who views competition in a fairly standard way, gives lip service to the idea that Survivor isn't just that, and there's more to it than that, but no real indication that he can do anything with that. So,
right.
Yeah,
my interest in Brandon is whether, people play off of him and, they make entertainment that way. Brandon on his own is not going to entertain me. All right, let's move on to someone who might entertain me, Lauren, who I think showed signs earlier in the season, and I'm hopeful that'll come back. I think we didn't get a whole lot of her of late because, again, Yam Yam and Carolyn just were failing constantly, so constantly getting airtime. Lauren's tribe, less so. And so we didn't get to see a whole lot of her, but I think she's entertaining. She still has an extra vote. Not that that's a whole lot of an advantage, but at the very least, she also seems like a person who can do something and will do something. I think she's the type that thinks that she needs to make a resume for herself and is going to attempt to do that.
I mean, she has an extra vote because she made a play for it. So that in itself, although, modern players are always going to try and make the early play for a thing. They want the thing. Very few people turn down the thing. There's possibility of spark, but as you say, she really hasn't been plot relevant for a while, so I don't know. We get indications that she's going to be making the move against Matt and Franny, so that could lead to some interest one way or another, whether it tears those two apart or backfires on her. Actually, you were saying that, we haven't seen a lot of her because, it was Tika a lot, both because they were the tribe going to tribal council, but also because they have the 2 stars of the season. And I just want to speak to that idea that, Carolyn and Yam Yam are actually sucking up a lot of the oxygen of the season with probably the next level will be the Franny and Matt story, Danny doing some stuff. And I got to say, that's great. I think that's why I'm enjoying the season more. When everybody is about the same and everybody's crowing not everybody. People were crowing last season about oh man, what an amazing balanced edit. And my take early that I think really bore out the entire season is it's because no one's special. That's what happens when you get it. And is it balanced because no one's special, or is no one special because it's balanced? I kind of lean that it's probably the first one, but it could be the second. And I'm glad that this season they're like, nah, man, we've got these bright burning stars, and also they're the most plot relevant. Fuck balance. So if that means that somebody like Lauren doesn't get that much airtime, I don't care.
And we had a commenter on our site this week, and I would shout that person out if I could remember the name, but said something along the lines of like, oh, this season isn't a whole lot of balance, but I'm enjoying it. Yes, that's the point we've been trying to make for many seasons now. I don't care about, Chelsea from Utah's personal journey. I care, do you entertain me in this television program? If you're not, you can get sidelined and I won't lose sleep over it. Yeah. The people that we're seeing now, a lot of, are people who make good TV.
Yeah. Well, be dynamic or be plot relevant. If you're neither of those,
right,
then like any other kind of story, people would be like, why is this character here? Oh, well, because I've developed this great backstory. It's like, no, they are not important. They're not adding value to the story. Cut them. That's the job of an editor, and it's true in like fiction as it is in reality TV. And I know people like to cape up for those people because they're real human beings, and it's so mean. And no, the job of the editor is to find the thing that will interest the audience and the thing that will serve the story. Sorry, I interrupted, but I guess that's what I do.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that, if it was a scripted series and you kept seeing an irrelevant or uninteresting character popping up over and over, you'd be like, why? Why is this happening? This is interfering with my enjoyment of this otherwise good show. It's basically like if How I Met Your Mother just kept focusing on Ted. I mean, no one cares about Ted. Ted's the worst part of that show.
Was literally the POV characters. I do think they focused. It was his story, but they made sure.
But I'm saying
that like Barney was getting as many of the refs, and no, it's true.
In the midst of telling the story of Ted, the least dynamic character on that show, they focused a lot on the other characters in the show because they were entertaining. Ted sucked.
Yeah, and you see this in other TV shows like where they have big ensembles, and they might even like start the show with the idea that like this is going to be a featured character. Maybe even like this was a bigger star. But then as it develops, they're like, this person isn't popping, or they just aren't working for where this show needs to go. And then they either get reduced in screen time or just gone altogether.
Written out.
And sometimes even like shows start off as ensembles and then they realize, no, we're a star character show. And then who's in service to those characters? Like, many people might not know that like Family Matters, like Steve Urkel wasn't in the early seasons of that show. And then they're like, this character's really working. And then the show became Steve Urkel. And it's like, and it became better for what it was as a result. Yeah, it's not about telling everybody's story. If they have a story to tell and that it matters to the plot of the season, then they should be in it. And, I had a problem with 41 and that they buried the winner. And I'm like, there had to have been a way to make her just slightly more relevant because she was relevant to the story. I get that she wasn't like entertaining. I'm not going to argue that. I would argue with people who would argue the opposite. So I never wanted her to be the feature character of the show, but you have to make her plot relevant. If at the end of the season, I'd be like, oh, they won. They managed to keep Gabler around enough that I didn't be like, oh, I mean, it was still pretty shocking when that guy won.
Yes, it was.
So I get it. So that's kind of like a side note. Like, again, I think that Lauren probably does have more to offer, but if she never really gets to that point because the show is focusing more on the characters who matter, and especially on Yam Yam and Carolyn, I got to support it, which leaves us with one other person to talk about. Similar to that, what's his name again?
Zane?
I think it's Kane. That dude's name is Kane.
Oh. Are you sure? Do you want to double check that?
I don't know where I would look that sort of thing up.
I'm
I'm getting conflicting reports from the leading Survivor websites.
Yeah. So I mean, Kane is so memorable that last week I couldn't even remember the guy's fucking name, and you wrote it down wrong, and I'm like, no, that sounds right. Like, you can kind of tell where we're at on Kane, right? Like, there's not a whole lot to say. And
his storyline so far is that he's the other nerd. No, the other nerd.
And us getting his name wrong is the most interesting thing about him this season. So there's where I stand with Kane. I have no further thoughts on the man.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that a dude from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, yes, that is a place, John, just is not the most dynamic presence of reality TV.
That guy knows so many gourds.
It's a Kane in the sea of gourds. I'm trying to think like the comp of what Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan would be. I don't know, Cheyenne, Wyoming, maybe? Is that a place, actually? Did I just screw up two places? No, I'm right?
No, that's a place. Yeah.
You know what? I'd also be lying if I said that I know much about Moose Jaw, other than it's a place with a funny name in Canada.
All right. Anything else you want to say about this cast before we wrap this thing up?
They're fine right now. I think they're good. Like, we got some standouts. We got some potential. I'm happy with where the season's at right now.
Yeah, I think we're off to a solid start in it, and we have a promising post-merge potentially ahead of us. So I'm encouraged, much more so than I have been in probably the past 2 seasons even. Or maybe 3. Who knows? But anyway, let's
can't ask you to remember how you thought or felt 3 seasons ago. That's just unfair.
Exactly. They all blend together at this point. So if you want to see those old thoughts or research them, please don't call me out because I don't give a shit. This website is purplerockpodcast.com. You can find the show podcast account on Twitter at Purple Rock Pod. Andy is Purple Rock Andy. Anything else you want to add, Andy?
Hit the theme music.
This is the copyright-free outro to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. Thanks for listening.